is TJ Gryzik, and I'm the Chief Product Officer of Clear Skye. We provide an identity lifecycle management application on the Now platform. Many of the features that we provide are account management, access management, onboarding, offboarding, changes to employees in general, and a framework that will allow you to track and audit each activity that occurs from an identity perspective, whether it's new employees joining the company and being provided their baseline access, or changing positions within the organization, or lastly, the offboarding process. We also manage access requests and account requests. And we're here today to talk about the new identity provider, Centrify, that has made it into our latest release. With Centrify, we now have access to manage access to thousands of applications and devices within their application. So getting started, we'll go ahead and start off at the service catalog. I'd like to walk you guys through a use case that many of you have probably seen before. Someone within the organization needs access to a specific application. In our example, we'll take a look at WebEx. So users can go to their standard service catalog within ServiceNow. They can select a catalog which can be customized specifically to a single application or for any type of application within a system or even across environments like your Active Directory environment and Centrify. So I'll go ahead and click on that access request. And we're providing them the least amount of information to fill out. You can always add to this, like adding a business justification or additional information right to the form without impacting the framework. So today we're going to go ahead and request access to WebEx. So all I need to do is go ahead and click on the lookup or just start typing WebEx. And in this case, I'll go ahead and type WebEx. WebEx is an option I can select, and once I submit, the approval chain and request will go to the correct approvers. Approvers are filled out ahead of time. You can specify different approvals and stages for each of the entitlements or an environment like Centrify as a whole. Here we're first going to request that TJ's manager approves the request, and once that's happened, we can go ahead and then ask the next stage of approval, which is going to be IT Finance or Vaughn. You can configure these approvals at different levels, including setting how each approval condition is specified or each rejection condition is specified. And you can also move these around within the screen. So if I wanted, to move Vaughn to the front and the group to the other stage, I can do that. But in this case, I think it makes sense to keep it as is. There we are. If you scroll down to the bottom of the entitlement, we can check the status of the operation that was recently requested. This can also be checked from dashboards or working queues depending on how your ServiceNow instance is set up. So if I refresh our operations list, you can see here that there's a new member request. So TJ has requested to be added to the WebEx group, which is then going to grant him access to WebEx. Because there's approvals, we'll need to go into the actual operation and push these approvals forward. Traditionally, users would get an email where they can respond directly in their email, or if you're using the ServiceNow web app or mobile app, you can see the approvals directly in your My Approvals, or you may get push notifications depending on how ServiceNow is configured. So first, my manager is Joe Romano, so he needed to complete the first approval. And once we refresh that, the second approval is Vaughn. It does look like there was nobody in the group that I specified for this test, but Vaughn will work perfectly fine. Once this is approved, we'll reach out with our new integration with Centrify and grant that access automatically. You can see here in our Centrify window, WebEx has been added to this employee's account, and he can now click and go into WebEx and start using it. So that's nice when you have one access request, but maybe you want to add a many different applications based on the role that someone has. So we also support role-based access with Clear Skye. Here we can see we have an IT analyst in the Centrify environment, and we still have an approval here, but in this case it's just Joe who needs to approve it. We have 3 entitlements, including LinkedIn, Amazon Web Services, and Office 365, that each needed to be added to TJ's account. So what we can do is we'll go back to our service catalog, and instead of clicking on access request, we'll go to role management. So we can click into role management, and here we can specify an environment. So I'm going to say that we want to add a role in the Centrify environment. The role is going to be the IT analyst role, and the account's going to be TJ's account. Admin _ TJ. So we'll go ahead and click that and go ahead and submit. So the same way that we are able to track the progress, we can do the same thing here. So instead of going to the role itself, I'm actually going to go into the dashboard. So here we can see that we have our identity lifecycle dashboard and we have our request to add a role. So I could go ahead and click into this request and track the progress, and it looks like we're waiting on Joe to approve the request. So I'll go ahead and approve this real quick, and once this has been approved, it's going to go ahead and initiate the operation request for each of those individual applications, and we should start to see them populate here. So we have Amazon.com, Office 365, and it looks like we already had WebEx, so I didn't need to add that one. At this point, we have all the access that we would need. Now, here we showed that you can request a role, but this can also occur during different, employee processes, for example, transfers or if someone's being onboarded for the first time. So if I go into my service catalog, we have new employee requests. Now, once you've granted the access, you want to look at this access on a regular basis. Now, that may be event driven, like someone's transferred responsibilities and it's time to review their access before they start their new job, which in that case, we could go ahead and try that use case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our service catalog. I'm going to go ahead and go into transfer employee. Now let's say in this case, TJ is transferring into the HR department. So we'll go ahead and type in TJ's name. We'll go ahead and type in his department. Let's say he's going into HR. His new manager maybe is Vaughn this time instead of Joe. And he's maybe turning into an HR analyst. So previously he was an IT analyst. That means that the responsibilities and roles he may have had within Centrify are different now that he's going to the HR department. For example, he may no longer need access to Amazon.com or Office 365. So let's go ahead and submit this request. And to view where the status of that request is, we'll just go back to our Identity Lifecycle portal. So here you can see we have our transfer employee of TJ Gryzik, and the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to send a quick approval to the new manager, which is Vaughn in this case, just to make sure that we're transferring the correct person. Once Vaughn is approved, it's going to go ahead and read a set of rules defined within the Clear Skye ILM application and automatically generate reviews or start disabling access. So here we can see 3 different reviews were created. So depending on the levels of access, you can route your reviews to a manager or to a specific group within ServiceNow or an individual. So it looks like here we had several different configurations based on the access that TJ had. So what I can do next is I can open up one of these reviews, which has a nice interface and provides all the different accounts that Joe is responsible for reviewing. In this case, we just have the one from Centrify. So here we can say that, we don't want to keep this account at all, which will disable access from Centrify, or we can say that he can maintain the account. What you'll notice is we're only 25% done by taking action on the account itself, and you can see that we still have 0 access. So then I can go ahead and click into that account and see what granular access that account has. So for example, if TJ is moving into HR, we may still want him to use WebEx. He may have to host meetings, so let's go ahead and say that access can be maintained. And Office 365 may be something else he also needs to keep. But the new manager may say, well, Amazon Web Services isn't something we really need to maintain. So at that point, you can click an X and remove that access. Once that's done, you can see that the green button is highlighted, which means we're ready to complete our review. Once that's completed, it's going to reach out with the Centrify integration and automatically remove that access. So here we can see Amazon Web Services no longer access that's needed. So these transfer reviews can be initiated from your HR system, employee changes, from the ServiceNow user table, or can be manually entered through the catalog that we had showed you earlier. Now those are some of the standard, onboarding, offboarding, account request, but sometimes you need to perform actions within, let's say, another process like security incident response. So in that case, we could be filling out a security incident response form. Let's say that TJ is an affected user of a security incident. Or let's say that he used one of the tools that were provided to him in a bad manner, or his account is now compromised. So within the security incident of ServiceNow, we can scroll down and retrieve all the accounts that TJ may have. So here I can go ahead and click Retrieve Accounts. Now we've added a button for this demo, but this can also be triggered automatically based on some condition of a security incident to attach this evidence automatically. Here we can see that TJ has 12 accounts, not only the accounts that are available within Centrify, but also Active Directory Lab and other accounts that may be associated with his name. We could check the activity and other properties within the security incident without actually having to go into Active Directory or Centrify. And if we wanted to, we could even disable access directly from this form by clicking on the checkbox and saying disable access or account. So once I've done that, you can see that everything's sort of gone to gray, and if I refresh my screen on Centrify, I no longer have access. So in that quick amount of time, I was able to easily disable access to confidential resources that may have been compromised through an attack or some type of security incident. And our tool is flexible enough to build out your own processes. If you wanted to build out, temporary passwords, or if you're using ServiceNow's HR module and you wanted to automatically provision access, you can do this. If you wanted to check your compliance through the GRC apps, now that the data is in ServiceNow, it makes it very easy to also do that. So we're really excited about the new Centrify integration, and we see there's a lot of power here. If you have any additional questions, please let us know. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.